Welcome back, everybody. I have the distinct pleasure of speaking to somebody who is from Vancouver. I love my Vancouver actors. I haven't met one person from Vancouver who's in the acting business that's not an awesome, amazing person. So we're going to continue that trend here. And Elysia Rotaru is our wonderful guest tonight. And she has such a cool, diverse experience of doing so much voiceover work, of doing so much on-screen work. I really, really have lots of questions that I want to get to. So welcome to the program, Elysia.
Hi, Alan. Thank you so much for having me.
It's my pleasure. And I'm going to ask this question first because if I don't, my parents are going to kill me.
Yeah.
Your last name is the name, as soon as I saw your name, that's the first thing that came to mind. My parents the same way. They're going to ask me a question of, is there a relation to the famous Ukrainian singer Sofia Rotaru? So
No, I don't know. Maybe there will be. I'm gonna do a 23andMe. I have to. I
yeah,
haven't done one yet. My sister has, but I haven't gotten around to it. So at the moment, I can say no, only because I don't know.
right.
But stay
Well,
tuned.
yes, we'll investigate. And if you find something, please come back and we'll definitely, yes, the reveal of if
Right,
you're your Ukrainian pop star who,
right.
I grew up listening to and watching, and my parents are a little older than her, but they're in that same kind of age group. So
Yeah,
she was a really, really big deal, kind of a little bit, back ways.
I
Uh,
love that.
yeah, so look her up. It's an amazing voice. And again, she's from Ukraine, and both of you are brunettes. I know you're from Romania. I mean, you're Canadian,
Yeah,
but
it's all right.
Romanian descent. So
Yeah,
Romania and Ukraine, they're not far from each other, so there could be something there.
true.
So
True.
anyway,
We never know. We'll find out. 23andMe. Let's see.
yep, perfect. Okay, so my parents, if you're watching, no relation that we know of. Keep watching. Okay, so what got me interested, aside from your last name, is the fact that you didn't look as familiar, but then I saw you in many things almost right away. And I was talking to Ashley. Hi, Ashley, if you're watching. Talking to Ashley about you, and then pretty much the same day, I am watching Travelers, and there you are. You walk in an episode of Travelers
Sweet.
in season 2, episode 1, and it was remarkable because we again just talked about you kind of minutes before that, and then immediately I see you on screen. I pause. I call Ashley. I said, "Hey, I just saw Elysia on
Ah,
screen." That was Yeah, it was Sunday. Ashley probably still thinks I'm weird, but it's okay. Um,
it's all good. No
it's
weird.
and that kind of I saw these things, right? So I saw you on Travelers, which I enjoyed, and I want to actually talk about that a little bit. But you got started on Psych, which is my favorite comedy drama. Excuse me, comedy drama. My favorite comedy TV show of all time. And that was your start. You did an episode of Psych. I thought that's very, very cool and kind of synchronous with
Yeah.
the things that I really like. Yeah.
Yeah, it was my first on-camera booking, like after graduating university. So it wasn't a big role at all. So I was kind of happy though, because I'm like, ooh, this is like, what am I doing? Because the theater and the film world are so different in their ways. So it was kind of like a nice step in. Um, but yeah, I don't even, I would love to say I remember a lot of the experience, but I don't. It's like,
Totally, totally normal. But from my perspective, what I want to know is um, when you're coming off, right? So you just graduated, then you've done theater
mhm.
before, and then you're getting on set. Is this your first time on set in terms of
No,
on camera?
no. I mean, I like technically, like, yeah, like as an actor, yes. Like I did background work and stuff throughout university to like pay for
Okay.
stuff and you know what I mean, like just be part of it.
Yeah.
And then I modeled for years before, so I was in front of the camera, but not on that level as an actor or performer until that role, right? So like I knew basically kind of how a set worked. I mean, I still don't even really think I know it to this day. Like, you're like, I don't know. But yeah, that was my first time. Like, and you're an actor now. Like when you're signing your form, it's like, great, okay, cool. So it was, it was good because it was, I think, just what I needed as opposed to being thrown into
Yeah.
like something super aggressive where I was like already old. Like I say already old because I was what, like 22, 23. And like there are people that I know that started at like 5.
Yeah.
They've been on sets their whole lives. So yeah, it was my first real set life.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly better that you got that out of the way first. If Arrow was your first one and having to deal with that, kind of the stuff in season 4, all of those episodes, that would have been much rougher.
Yeah, yeah, it would have been aggressive. Like, you know, great mug. What a great mug.
Yeah.
Life
Yeah.
is good.
And then we turn that around.
Oh, yes, yes. I feel like I have that poster somewhere that I haven't put up in my house or
Yeah,
that mantra.
I love this brand. I have a ton of their stuff. My wife, if she ever wonders what to buy me for my birthday or any kind of an occasion, she knows exactly what to buy. Is just, another shirt from them or another, mug
That's
or
great.
anything else, because that's my thing. We're not
That's
affiliated,
so great.
sponsored by them. This is real love right here.
I
Uh,
dig it.
so it's interesting, right? So again, going back to that first time experience, and it was so smart of you to have done background work, and again, utilize kind of your experience as a model before, because a lot of people when they get on set and there are so many moving parts, it's very, very tough. You have to act, but then you have to know all of the things that are, set related, and it takes
Yeah.
away from performance. So I think it was just a really nice transition for you.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the universe puts you where it needs to, right? Like when you should be ready for it. So, yeah. I believe in that.
So
So,
do I completely. Yeah, it's and everybody watching that knows the show is going to say, yeah, okay, he's going to talk about
yeah.
spiritual again. Yeah, I will not.
Yes.
Absolutely. Okay, so when did you start doing voiceover work? Because you've done a ton of stuff that I want to get into as well. But when did that
Yeah.
start, and how did that come about?
It was another kind of like magical transition that I don't say fell into my lap. It was definitely a mix of right place, right time, but also following through, being ready, like all that kind of stuff. It was, I think in 2010, I was at a Vancouver International Film Festival party here in Vancouver, and I was with my agent at the time and talking to a casting director that I knew, and then this other casting director came up to me and we started chatting and he was like, "Oh, you're hilarious," and I'm like, "Yeah, I know." Like, we just like had a really great energy and like rapport, and we still do to this day. Like, he's
Mhm.
such a great human being and a mentor, and it was just really fun. And he was like, "Okay, well, I'm gonna bring you in," and my agent was like, "Oh, okay, like he'll bring you in." And then a few days ago, I got an audition for a voiceover project, and I ended up booking it. And it was my first Mondo big project. And then it just kind of continued to happen. Like I don't know, it turned me on in a way that I just never was turned on before in terms of the craft of acting and like a different outlet.
Mhm.
Because you like, okay, the theater, great, music, great, like I was a competitive pianist for years growing up, great, and then I knew that voiceover existed, but I actually wasn't really exposed to it in any way, shape, or form except from acting when you would go in and do ADR.
Mhm.
And I always like nailed it doing ADR. I was like done in 1 or 2 takes and then we would leave, and it's like you have 3 hour session booked and you're out in 30 minutes. Like, it was great. But I was like, oh, this is cool. So, and then when voiceover came that way, I was like, wow, this is really intense and awesome. And you're using a totally different muscle, and something just like triggered inside of me that I just didn't experience before. And that's kind of what happened. Like, I just had one person take a chance on me and invite me to an opportunity that I showed up for, and I showed up hard. And then I let it go because I had no idea how that world worked whatsoever at all. So it was like, okay, great. We went in, we had fun. He bossed me around, got some direction, tried it again. And then, a couple of days later, you get a call and it's like, you're going in for the session. And it's like, holy shit. And then you were like, okay, what do I do? Like, what's a session? Like, what does that look like? So at this point, I was already kind of like used to being thrown into situations and figuring it out and just following my instincts, which is kind of what it was all really about, and taking direction. But then having to utilize it with, your vocal tools. So it was really cool. And I mean, to this day, it's like every time I step in front of the mic, I'm like, bing, like, I don't know, there's just something like I'm like obsessed in the best way.
Yeah. And do you find that, again, you talked about the acting part, do you find that acting voiceover is different from acting, on screen?
Oh, for sure. There's so many levels where they match and cross, and then there's like just so many levels where they're just like devoid of each other. Like you're using you're using your whole corporal body, of course, and that's, I think, what people forget is like when you're in the booth in a studio, you're not just using your mouth and your voice. As you can see, like I already use my hands a lot when I talk, like, so I'm surprised I haven't touched my hair yet. But it's a whole body and spirit effort when you're doing VO. I think almost, I don't know, people will argue with me, but I think almost even a little bit more heightened because sometimes it's just you in there with a piece of paper and a microphone and a director in your ear, especially these days with COVID and everything happening. So you really have to be on point and present because you can't lie. Like you won't be able to lie like how you might be able to lie on set. And I say that with a grain of salt because on set there's so many other things that can support you, right? Like your wardrobe or great camera work and lighting and a scene partner, you know what I mean? So there's all those other factors. And when you're doing VO, you don't really have that yet. Sometimes you don't have like the music selected for whatever you're working with, or you don't even see what character you're reading. Like they make the character to your voice. Like you just don't know. So it's really challenging because it's like a little bit of a mind trip. Like you're like, what do they want? What should I do? And you just have to come, I think, uber prepared, and then also able to just throw it completely out the window. You know, I don't know. It's so hard to explain for me the differences because it's just I'm using different elements. And of course, your aesthetic. Like I don't think that anyone gives a shit about what you look like. Really, and like that's a big factor with on camera, as we all know. It's your aesthetic and what visually is being brought to the frame, as well as vocally and physically as well. But that's a huge difference. It's you hear little boys in cartoons, and then they're actually voiced by some of my friends that are like beautiful, gorgeous women. Like, so that's the biggest the one for sure.
No, that's really cool. And you've mentioned the aesthetic part and the kind of not being seen by the camera in a way. And
Yeah,
I have not done a ton of voiceover work except for recording. When I wrote a book, I recorded the audio for the book as well. But I
awesome.
haven't had a chance to really play with it. But it would seem to me like it would be a very freeing experience where you just get a chance to play. And I know myself when I'm
Yeah,
on stage and worrying about the camera, I blink a lot. So I have to be conscious of, if I'm in this moment, I can't be blinking right now. And that takes away from me being present because I'm thinking about it. If I'm doing voiceover, if I'm in front of the mic and I don't care about anything else, I can just be fully present and I can play. And to me, that would seem
yeah.
like a really freeing experience.
That's a nice way to put it for sure. I think that's why it turns me on so much because I mean, don't get me wrong, like there have been situations where the producers and wanted to video inside while we were recording, especially for video games. Like they just want to get like a B-roll going. But then also then there's like performance capture, which I've done a lot of as well, where they really give a crap about your face and like that you can move it. So I think that that's really what turns me on so much, is that like I move my face a lot, and I it's like a cool pocket when you're doing performance capture for video games, for example, where they want you to move your face 285 ways, and they're like, the more you can move it, the better. And it's so much cooler than just like having to not over smile. Like if you're really happy in a scene and like all my wrinkles come through with my smile, it's like, okay, sometimes I'll look at my video and I'm like, oh my God, that's so aggressive. So it is freeing because you just kind of, it's, for me, it's almost more just like all that other crap just goes away because it's not counted. And then you can just really let the work ultimately shine through with, like you said, without having to think about those subconscious level things, that do come to the surface eventually because you're conscious of them, like the blinking or like over smiling for me. But it is, yeah, it's really freeing, and just like it, I don't know, it pushes me to be better because I get to like instantly hear myself, you know what I mean? And like know where I can make a change right away, audially, like when I'm listening to it. And you get I think you just get more opportunities to play in the booth because it's faster. Like when you're setting up a whole shot on a set, it's like maybe 2 takes if you have time, because there's a lot of people involved. So
Yeah. And then you don't have to worry about coverages. You don't have to worry about the wide and
yeah,
the medium and the
yeah,
and
yeah,
all that stuff. Yeah, that's very
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
You're really exciting me about trying voiceover. I'm definitely going to do that. I want to.
I think you should. Like I
Yeah,
tell everybody, I think I'm like, give it a try, like get out there, get a demo, see what
yeah.
happens.
With me, it's I make faces all the time. My family is telling me to stop most of the time. So if I get a chance to do that and have fun, and people actually encouraging me to make faces, I'm in. I'm doing it. So
Yeah, do it. That's
that
awesome.
and I love accents and I love all sorts of weird voices and things. So that could be useful as well. Okay, I'm gonna do voiceover. That's it. It's been settled. Very
Yes.
cool. Love it. And then you've played so many different cool characters. I mean, you've been in the Marvel universe. I mean, you've been She-Hulk. You're the
Yeah.
She-Hulk. There's a part of me that's actually pissed off that they didn't come to you and they went to. Were you at least a part of the conversation for being?
No, I wasn't. I wasn't. It's so funny because like I emailed my team right away and I was like, guys, like I have to audition for this. And it's like, who are you? Like they're not gonna care about you, you know what I mean? So it was definitely like in my mind where I'm like, oh, I would love to even read for this, and just like what a
Yeah,
great opportunity, like who knows what the role is going to require. I mean, Tatiana's going to do a beautiful job. She's so I think if it went to anyone that was up for it, she, like out of the people that were up, I'm so glad she got it. Like I love her work. And she's Canadian, like killing
I
it.
know,
So
isn't it?
it was also just so, it was cool to see that they were doing that because it was a nice look, like, like go She-Hulk. But no, I sadly didn't have an opportunity, but it's okay.
All right. Well, you can still do a lot of the voiceover, and
Yeah.
you have more freedom to play. So that's there. And
Yeah.
the other thing that kind of just piggybacking and then moving off of it is that they cast Tatiana, and they know that you've played Tiana, on Arrows. It's like all of those little minor things are in my brain thinking, okay, moving up. So
Oh my
yeah.
God, you're so awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So, kind of, talking about Arrow, I loved Arrow. I was a huge fan of Arrow, and I stopped watching it after season 3 because then there was so much of my time that was taken up by the CW, kind of Arrowverse, and I watched
Yeah.
Flash. I was watching all of the other shows, and I just didn't find the time, and I finally said, I'm so behind already. I
Yeah.
don't know if I have enough time to kind of dedicate to catch up. So I stopped. And then, of course, if I had not stopped, and in season 4, I would have seen you the whole season. So my apologies for that. I'll go back and rewatch it
That's
now.
okay. It's okay. I feel like a lot of people feel the same way.
That's good. So how was your experience on Arrow, though?
It was awesome. It was intense and awesome and weird. Like it was like everything because it was my first big role, which we didn't know was going to be a big role. So that's part of the like weird part
Okay.
where, you know, the team that I was working with at the time, we didn't understand. We had no idea that it was going to last the whole season. And so it was actually kind of challenging because you just never know, like, am I going to die in the next episode? Like, no one's telling you anything. So it was a little bit frustrating as a performer to try and continue the life of the character with no end point. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, so this is the arc of the role. So in terms of that, it was really interesting for my process because I've never experienced anything of that caliber before in my career, and I really wanted to do a good job. So I was a little bit stressed, like in that brainscape, because I was like, okay, what's happening? Like, okay, am I gonna get the script? Like, am I dead in this script? I don't know. Like, so that logistically was interesting to me. So that was an interesting learning curve for sure. I keep using the word interesting because it's like the only word I can think of because it was like, oh, okay. But then, you know, on set and just being there in the character on the day, it was a lot of fun. Like I just remember my first day coming to set. It was I met Stephen Amell right away. I met the showrunner, Mark Guggenheim at the time, so lovely. And it was just fun because I got to dive into this character that had a dialect that actually came from the comic book origin story, which was really fun for me. But of course, comic to TV to film, they get mishmashed. So her story wasn't as it was in the comic, but it was still nice to have that there. And then it was kind of cool because I only really got to play with Steven and my friend Jimmy Akimbola, who played Baron, and we became friends on that shoot. Like it was so cool. And yeah, like it was definitely memorable and I guess a great way to cut my teeth to that kind of work. Yeah, I don't know. It was just I had no wardrobe changes, which was really cool. I was in the same outfit. My mom was always like, "Are you ever gonna change?" I'm like, "No, I'm stranded on an island." Like,
Yeah.
so be it. Yeah, and it was. I mean, I worked with James Bamford a lot, who was the stunt choreographer for the show, and he was so supportive and let me do so much of my work, which I love to do. Like I love using my body where I can and learning new skills and just pushing it forward that way. And that was really fun. Like he was like, "Okay, can you do this?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Great." You know, and I had an amazing stunt double who was there to do like all the crazy stuff that I wasn't allowed to do. But it was just beautiful to just be involved, you know, because sometimes you just don't even get to. They're like, "No, just put the stunt double in." And you're like, "No, but I can do it. I want to do it." And who knows the bureaucracy of like why you can't sometimes, but that was fun. That was really cool that I was allowed to do something.
Yeah, and then you mentioned your mom, and you know, just in during
Yeah.
Arrow, so you kind of die and then really die. So you know, from the mom's perspective, was it just like, feels really weird to watch you die on screen? Was that your first death, or did you have?
No, no, I mean, I joke about it a lot. I'm sure a lot of other actors do too. Of like, how many times have you died? Like, and I just actually joked about it again because on my recent project that came out on the episode of The 100, guess what? I died again. So it was like this, it's almost like a running joke of like, how many times can I die on the CW? Like, how am I
Yeah.
going to die now? Yeah. So it's, it, I don't think she cared. Like, I don't know. I just, there comes a point where I'm just like, I don't know. We just don't even talk about it.
With the I only died I think once on screen so far, although judging by what the critics said, it could have been a lot more than that. But I remember kind of getting ready for that scene, and my parents were. I was like, there's this superstition and all of the other stuff. I'm like, dude, I would rather die on screen than in real life. Okay, so that was my approach to it. But yeah,
Oh yeah.
they were a little worried. So I was wondering how other parents feel about watching their
I
kids.
mean, my parents have seen me die in many ways on screen. So I think that the death on Arrow was like almost boring compared to the other stuff they've seen.
Yeah.
Um, like this web series I did years ago with my friend Gigi Salguerrero, I had my like throat slashed open with a machete, and it was like so awesome and aggressive, and like blood spurts everywhere, and like so like that was pretty aggressive, you know.
Is,
So
is that
I've
is
had
that your
some good
most
on screen deaths.
is that your most
Pardon
interesting
me.
death? Was that your most interesting death, or did you have one that's even better?
No, I think my most interesting death was in a film I did called Girl House, which is not recommended for all ages, but that was pretty aggressive too. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we'll leave it at that.
Choose Your Victim, though, was pretty gory. So that one was fun.
Cool. And then in terms of kind of the technical aspects of it, if you are
Yeah.
allowed to share those details,
Yeah.
when doing those scenes where, because I mean, from a technical perspective, I can imagine what they have to do, but they have to have, when somebody cuts your throat, there are a number of shots that go into that. So you have the makeup, you have stuff, but there's still a lot of work that needs to be done to make it all seem real.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like, to be honest, there's a lot of realism on the day. Like, there's a lot of blood and there's a lot of stuff happening on the day that really amp it up. But I think most of it is just it's kind of like a one take wonder sometimes. You just have to really set up the shot depending on what it is,
Yeah.
and nail it. Like all the blood rigs need to work, the acting has to be there, or the whole scene just turns to shit. Like if
Yeah.
like it's I've been on set too with like projects that I've made with my production partner, where like if something's happening and the actors aren't reacting, or like the blood isn't squirting out fast enough, you're like, oh my god, like come on. Like you just almost got to keep it rolling. um but it's like so much of it is out of your control in a way. You can only prepare so much, and then like fingers crossed that on that moment it happens, right?
And as an actor, how many times did you check to make sure that the knife or the machete was not real? Before
Oh, always, every time. Not even that, like a pencil, like anything that's like the last film that just came out this year, Kilbert, that we shot a few years ago. Like, we had props on there that were like aggressive. We had like a protractor, like from a geometry set, that like had a sharp needle point that we had to make sure that was removed. But then even still, it was like that thing is still, you could, with enough force without the sharp edge, you
Yeah.
could still hurt your scene partner. So every time, like I've learned from mistakes. I've learned from others' mistakes, and just the words of the wise. If you're not checking your props, I don't think I think you should also ultimately check them. Like you shouldn't just get handed a gun that's not loaded, and even though you see it's not loaded, like you should be able to see it yourself too. So there's a lot. I mean, what's wonderful is like the teams that I've had the chance to work with in my career have all been so safe, like knock on wood. Um, but I think it's also an actor responsibility to also make sure, like, okay, do I
Yeah.
have the fake knife or the real knife? Like, did you hand me the fake one? Stuff
Yeah.
like that. So,
Yeah. I haven't been in any of that genre where I had to experience that, but yeah, I would be checking that and
oh,
recheck.
oh yeah,
I'm traumatized still by Brendan Lee, dying on
yeah.
set because of a gun. So yeah, I think I would be really really concerned.
Oh yeah. Totally. And like, a lot of the projects I've worked on, I'm handling firearms and so are my colleagues. And it's still, it's still scary. Like, even though, they're dummies or whatever,
Yeah.
it's still threatening,
Yeah.
which
And
is,
then, sorry, I was going to say, depending on the location, the gun itself may be a prop gun. Like I was playing a Chicago cop, and I had, a gun that looked real, but it was a prop gun. It was definitely not real, but
mhm,
we're looking real, and we were not, in a closed set. We were walking around in a neighborhood on the south side of
right.
Chicago, and I was supposed to be shooting a black, man. So I said, you better have cops around here surrounding and making sure everybody knows that this is not real, because the last thing that I
Yeah.
want is for people to, to take this seriously, given what's happening in our society. So that
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
another thing that I was like, we need to have permits. We need to have the whole area kind of cordoned off. I don't
Yeah.
want any surprises.
Yeah. That's the last thing you need is like someone just getting riled up, right? Because they don't know if it's real or not, which is like,
Um,
that's scary.
it scared the hell out of me. That's the first thing I thought about, like when I was reading the script. And yeah, you're going to be in South Side of Chicago. You're, a white cop. You're shooting a black man. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, moving on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And you're like, and this is the story. Okay, great. Yeah. And but the bystanders don't know. Yeah.
right. And that we literally had people kind of, because we were shooting in an alley, and people were, taking out their garbage, and people were coming up, and one person, was thanking us for our good work, and another person was looking at us, very funny, let's put it that way. And I can't blame
Yeah.
them. Everybody's had
Yeah.
their own experiences. So I
Yeah.
have to go out of our way and say, this is a movie shoot. We're just shooting a scene. This is not real. So it's like
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
trying to
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
a character, and yet at the same time, you're trying for people to know that you're just the character and it's not the reality. It was a weird
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah. Totally.
Okay, so getting into to more of the kind of the other project that I wanted to see, uh, Supernatural. We had one of the, kind of the friends of the show is a showrunner, or was a showrunner for Supernatural, Adam Glass. So he, was a huge fan of Supernatural before he became a showrunner. Then he was a
Mhm.
showrunner for a number of years, and that show has just a almost a religious following of people who just
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
You a fan of Supernatural before you get a chance to get on set?
Um, I don't even really know if I was a fan so much of the show. I really liked the two lead actors because I watched their shows a lot. Like I watched Days of Our Lives a lot, right? Like with my Oma and my aunt loved that show. And then I watched Jared a lot on his show and it was and then when Supernatural was filming here, it kind of became like the talk of Vancouver. It was like that's a show you want to be on. And
Yeah.
it wasn't just because it was like so cool. It was those two guys
Mm.
made that show awesome because it was like when you walked onto their set, they welcomed you with such open arms and I honestly like it was such a great vibe. Like such a great vibe. So I feel like to be honest that's probably why that show has such a following cuz the two guys that led the show for as many years as they did were just genuinely wonderful people, and
Mm.
I don't know. Yeah. So I became all honestly, I became a bigger fan of it after. Um, because I don't know, I try not to fangirl too much, to be honest. Um, Mostly because of expectations. You have an expectation of being on a project or meeting someone, and then you kind of go there or meet them, and you're like, uh, you're kind of a dank, or this kind of sucks. So I kind of just have always been that person that's like, rather than have the expectations of, let's just experience it.
Yeah. Have you had experiences where you were a fangirl and you kind of had to, really hold that part of you down?
Oh, for sure. Like, I feel like if there was one project where that happened, I ended up booking some like small role on this like Catherine Zeta-Jones film that she was doing called Godmother. Mostly, I told my agents, I'm like, look, I just want to be on this set. Like, I just want to kind of like be in her energy. And it was like such a dinky role. I don't even think I had lines. Like, I can't remember. I didn't even care. But it
Mhm.
was so lovely to meet her. And it wasn't like I was like, oh my God, Catherine Zeta, like, oh my God. It was more just you. There was something about her that I've always loved in the press and I've always loved in her work that I just like I loved something about her face, like you can just kind of see someone in their face. I don't know how to explain it, but she just seemed like a really great human. And then I met her and she was wonderful and so gracious and like I have this thing where I'm like, when you step onto a set, it's kind of like being invited to somebody's home if it's not your show, right? Like if it's not your film or you're not part of the series cast. Um, and and she was like another example of those people that was just like, hi, welcome, like thank you for being here, and
Yeah.
was like fully dressed up in her old lady outfit and was just so lovely, so that was really cool. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. Yeah. Big fan of her as well. I
Yeah.
really, I really enjoy people who are immensely talented, who are allowing themselves to do all sorts of different roles and then not take themselves seriously and not say, I can only do this because I'm perceived this way and I cannot do that.
Hmm.
I have
Hmm.
not seen that at all with her. So I really have a great deal of respect for her.
Hmm. So
Very
cool.
cool. And then I saw something on IMDb, looking at your profile, and I was trying to find video for it, and I couldn't. You were on Lip Sync Battle, and how did that happen?
Yeah,
What was
so that's
there?
actually some voiceover work that I've done. So yeah, so I was the promo announcer for the show. So like all of the stuff that you would see on the channel where it's like lip sync, like up next on lip sync battle. So I do a lot of that stuff actually. So I'm the voice of certain shows like Ink Master on Paramount Network, the Hallmark Movies and Mysteries channel, um, CBS The Talk. Um, what else? Like like just it's called like promo work. So you're pretty much the person telling you
Yeah.
what's up next, like stuff like that. So it's kind of cool. It's kind of fun. And I've worked with Paramount Network for quite a long time, and um, they're awesome. Like, I'll still audition for the shows, but sometimes I book them, sometimes, and that was one of the ones that they're like, you booked it. I'm like, sweet.
Yeah.
So,
That's very cool. And have you found, again, because a lot of the actors, and not that you're in the secondary market because Vancouver is a big market in
mhm.
Canada, but there's a limited amount of work per se for all of the actors. So have you found that because you're doing voiceover and because you're doing other things, it really allowed you to kind of have a much, I don't know if easier is the right way to use it, but an easier experience and kind of allowing things to happen as an actress?
Yes and no. Actually, I think maybe more on the no side.
Really?
I mean, I joke with my agents because I'm like, I'm kind of like a unicorn where I can do a lot of stuff quite well,
Mhm.
and it then becomes like a scheduling issue,
Uh,
where it's like, oh, okay, so you have all these voiceover things you need to do, but then like, what if you book a movie or you're on a movie or you're shooting something? How do you schedule in the voiceover stuff? And like, when do you go and do this video game? So it's then when that stuff starts colliding, that's when it's like, okay, like calendars, logistics, what's easily moved. So it's kind of cool and awesome, but I feel like sometimes, you know, I I don't know if it's true, but sometimes I feel like my agents are like, oh my God, like what's she doing now? Like she's never available or whatever.
yeah.
But it has helped. I mean, I don't know. I like to keep busy and explore as much as I can. Like
Mhm.
YOLO, you only live once. Like I don't want to just do this, or just do that. So even within the realm of voiceover, I want to do whatever is available. Like bring it on. And same with, on camera stuff. So kind of good and bad.
No, I understand that, but I have a solution for you. So you know how Dwayne Johnson has a mobile gym that he takes with him to the set? You can have a mobile, recording studio that you can just take with
Oh,
you
I
from set.
do.
Oh, you do?
I do. Oh, yeah. That, my friend, I do.
There you go.
It's
So you
crazy.
make it work, right? You make it work.
Yeah,
That's
you have to. You have to.
yeah. Talking about kind of the latest stuff that you're doing voiceover work for is a really
Hmm.
cool Avengers video game where you're
Yeah.
Shield. Is that game out? When is it coming out?
So yeah, it dropped on September the 4th. My
Mhm.
character, I play one of the characters I play is a Shield agent, Alessandra Morales. And then in October, my other character drops into the game, but I can't tell you what it is. Um, so it's gonna be, yeah, it's gonna be pretty fun to see how that's received and like how that character fits into the world that they've created.
Yeah.
So it's, yeah, it's really, I think people are enjoying the game. I'm like, getting hit up on Twitter by gamers and stuff and Instagram. So I think it's doing pretty good.
And because you're a part of kind of this Marvel and the gaming universes, I know not right now because of COVID, but do you get a chance to go to Comic Cons and to all of the, kind of conventions where people get a chance to see the voices that they used to play with?
Yeah, I mean, I did go to as many Comic Cons as I could in the past. We'll see what happens in the future. I love them. I absolutely love going, mostly because I actually get to meet people face to face and say thank you for supporting me because without you I couldn't do what I do. So it's for me it's really fun. I love going and meeting everybody. I mean, I've had I've yeah, like it's just so cool. Like it's such an honor to be able to attend those events. So I really hope that there's a way that they can come back safely. I don't know. I know. Like virtual Comic Cons are cool, but it's like still cooler when I can be like, yo, high five, and then like maybe hand sanitize my hand. But I don't know. Yeah. I do
And
love going to them.
yeah, and then kind of, because you've done so many of them, is there, one character that you mostly identify with out of all of the characters that you voiced?
Oh, probably this one character coming up that I can't talk about yet, but it's in a new DC animated movie, hopefully coming out next year.
Okay. Well,
Yeah, probably her.
all right, we'll leave it at that. Very cool. Last question for you. If you had a chance to go and talk to a younger version of yourself as you're just kind of stepping onto the psych set, and you had a
Yeah.
chance to give one piece of acting advice, what would that advice be?
Oh my God. My first impulse is just like, don't let people tell you no.
Good advice.
Um, I and probably patience, but like we already know that. Yeah, I think it would probably be something around the realm of like, take bigger risks, have more fun. Um, I think a lot of the stuff that I've been exposed to, and I still deal with it too, is like you get, like you said earlier, you get put into boxes or whatnot. And I don't mind getting put into whatever box people are putting you in. My whole thing is like, great, then if that's what they're doing for you, then own the box. Like, be the best in that box or whatever until you outgrow it, until you lobster out of it. But I think for me, that's just who I am as a person. Like, I'm pretty pushy. My agents, if they see this, are like, yeah, we know. People around me are like, yeah, she's crazy. But I think it's mostly just because I have such a, like, I don't know, I just get so excited. It's not about desperation, it's more about excitement and wanting to explore. I just had this conversation with a friend this past week, and it's like, I don't want to be in movies. Like, Yeah, great. Thanks for the paycheck. It's more for the experience. It's more for like playtime and like we are only on this planet for such a short amount of time that it would be so fun to just explore things, and go that route. So I think that's why I chase it like that is because I just want to explore stuff and see what I can get see what I can do to like expand and
Yeah.
grow and learn. Um, so I think that would be one of the things I would say is just like, keep push, like as my younger self, yeah, like keep going, keep pushing, keep training, keep like, like don't let people get in your way. If you feel like
Yeah.
that's what you want to go for it and find the people that will support you in that vision,
Yeah.
that are honest about it.
No, and I think you have to do that. Otherwise, you're not going to get to where you want to go. And that's,
What's that saying, Ellen? The squeaky wheel gets the grease. No, but I don't know. I think there's a very fine line to being like super annoying like that, and just having I think some drive.
right.
But I think yeah, at the end of it, I think it's just surrounding yourself with the people to help
Mm.
you grow. Like finding those people and in turn you helping them grow. But
Yeah, it's
yeah,
again, it's a challenge that hopefully will elevate everybody. And
yeah, yeah.
it's may not be the right crowd for it. Thank you so much for coming on. I really enjoyed
Oh my
this.
God, my pleasure.
Yeah, and thanks to everybody for tuning in and to yet another fun episode of The Love of Acting. We know you love acting as much as we do, and that's why we do this for you. Thank you.